Good day, everyone, especially to you, ma'am. I'm Criscia, Autentico, and today I'm going to discuss to you the Chapter 6 of the Philippine Tourism, which is the, the tourism public sectors. But before that, let me read to you this. The responsibility of government is developing, organizing, promoting its tourism industry is of primary importance to the Philippines. In order for the government to be more effective, partnership with the private sector need to be fostered and cooperation from local communities need to be worked out. It is according to Richard Gordon, former Secretary of Tourism. Now let me introduce to you the topic outlined of this chapter. First is the Department of Tourism. Second, Philippine Tourism Authority. Third, Intermodal Administration. Fourth, National Parks Development Community. Fifth, National Historical Institute. Next is the National Center for Culture and Arts. Next is the Philippine Convention and Visitors Corporation. Next is Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Next is National Economic Development Authority. Next is Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation. Next is Department of Environment and Natural Resources. Next is Department of Labor and Employment. Next is Department of Public Works and Highways. Next is Department of Transportation and Communication. Next is Department of Trade and Industry. Next is Board of Investments. Next is Philippine Economic Zone Authority. Next is Board of Investments. Next is Department of Foreign Affairs. Next is Department of Interior and Local Government. Next is Bureau of Food and Drugs. Next is Bureau of Customs. Next is the Philippine Coast Guard. Next is the Philippine Regulatory Board for Customs Broker. Next is Nayung Filipino Foundation. And lastly, we have the Tourism Enterprise Zone Authority. And by the end of this module, our learning objectives is to identify the various government agencies involved in the development and promotion of the tourism industry as well as their functions. Second is describe the relationships of these agencies with one another. Then lastly is explain the possibility of public service as a career in the industry. It was during the year 1973. The Philippines or the Philippine government realized that there is a need to realign government efforts toward trade, promotion, and tourism development for greater effectiveness. The need of the government immediately and the priority attention. This gave rise to President Decree number 187 on May 11, 1973, creating the Department of Tourism, which was enacted to turn the tourism industry to a positive instruments toward accelerated national development through which more people from other countries may visit and better appreciate the country, and through which the Filipinos themselves may learn more about the natural beauty, history, and culture of the Philippines and develop greater pride in the commitment of the nation. For our first topic, which is the Department of Tourism. The Department of Tourism was created by virtue of Presidential Decree number 189. It is the primary policy making, planning, programming, and coordinating an administrative entity of the executive branch of government in the development of the tourism industry, both domestic and international. The DOT has a major functions. First is supervise all activities of the government which concerns tourism. Second, effective the removal of unnecessary barriers to travel, the integration and simplification of travel regulations, as well as their efficient, fair, and courteous enforcement to ensure expeditious and hospitable reception to all visitors. Third is formulate an integrated program of promotion and publicity designed to attract and induce people abroad to visit the Philippines. Patronize things which are Philippines made out to enhance the prestige of the Filipino people and the Republic. Fourth is review all the tourism projects which may involve loans from government financial institutions before said institutions may take action on them and approve all tourism projects and firms applying for tax incentives under the Export Incentives Act as amended by Presidential Decree number 92 before the Board of Investments may take action on them. Fifth is represent the government in all such conferences and meetings concerning tourism and travel and discharge such responsibilities of the government as may arise from treaties, agreements, and commitments on tourism and travel to which is signatory. Six is accredited travel agents, tour operators, and tour guides. Seventh is classify and accredited hotel resorts, inns, motels, restaurants, and other related facilities and services which cater to the foreign and domestic tourists, and in addition formulate suitable standards to ensure the highest possible standards are met. Reasonable fees and charges are made and that services are given with honesty, courtesy, and efficiency. And lastly, perform such other functions may be provided by law. And for our next topic, which is the Philippine Tourism Authority, Presidential Decree 564, October 2, 1974 was enacted, revising the character to the Philippines or the Philippine Tourism Authority, which was originally created under Presidential Decree number 189, dated May 11, 1973. Strengthening the Philippine Tourism Authority was needed to be in a better position to effectively unify the integrate related activities and services of both government and private entities pertaining to tourism and development projects. Travel tax collection is PTA's main source of income. Travel tax is a levy imposed by the government on individual citizens of the Philippines, permanent resident aliens who have stayed in the country for more than a year, who are leaving the country irrespective of the place where the air ticket is issued as provided for by PD or 1183 as amended by PD 1205 Batas Pambansang BLG 39 at 38 and EO 283 on travel tax. Payment of travel taxes is course through the Bureau of Internal Review. The PDA has a general powers to implement. First, to implement policies and programs of the Department of Tourism pertaining to the development, promotion, and supervision of tourism projects in Philippines. Second, to promote the development into the integrated resort complexes of selected and well-defined geographic areas with potential tourism value known otherwise as tourism zones. Third is to extend all forms of assistance to private enterprises in undertaking tourism projects. Fourth is to undertake for its own account or in a joint venture with the private sector the operation and maintenance of essential tourist facilities which private enterprise alone is not prepared or willing undertake. Fifth is to assure availability of land at reasonable prices or rental rates for private investors in hotel and other tourist facilities. And lastly, to coordinate, assist, and implement tourism-related plans or operation of the local governments, governmental agency, public corporations, and where clearly necessary and feasible, those of private entities as to make possible the accelerated and balanced growth and development of tourism in the Philippines, which is responsive to the needs of the target travel markets here and abroad. And for our next topic is the Intramuros administration. For 400 years, Intramuros has been a priceless heritage of the past of the city of Manila and a major historical landmark of the Philippines. To preserve and enhance the historical value of Intramuros, a national historical consciousness program demands its restoration, development, and maintenance. For this purpose, Presidential Decree Number 1616 on April 10, 1979, creating the Intermurus Administration, was created, charged with such vital role and responsibility. The Intermurus Administration shall be responsible for the order, restoration, and development of Intermurus as the monument to the Hispanic period of Philippine history. It shall ensure that the general appearance of Intramuros conforms to Philippine Spanish architecture from the 16th to 19th century. Intramuros administration has also functions. A is formulate, coordinate, and or execute policies in the implementation of all programs, projects, and activities of the government affecting or relating to Intramuros. B is enter into the contracts with any private persons or entities or any government agencies, either domestic or foreign, whenever necessary for the effective discharge of its functions and responsibilities under such terms and conditions as it may deem proper and reasonable. C is acquired through sales, expropriation, or other means to hold real and personal property as it may deem necessary or convenient in the successful prosecution of its work, and lease, mortgage, sell, alienate, of otherwise dispose of such personal and real property. D is receive, take, and hold by bequest, devise, donation, gift, purchase, or lease from foreign or domestic sources, either absolutely or in trust for any of its purposes. Any assets, grant, or property, real or personal, subject to such limitations such as are provided in existing laws and regulations to convey as assets, grant, or property, invest and reinvest the same, and deal with and expand its asset and income in such manners as well as best promote its objectives. E is initiate, plan and undertake and supervise the restoration, upkeep and maintenance of the Intramuros wall, including the pavilions, moats, sunken, garden, and public places or areas. Then plaza, streets, and other government-owned or managed properties situated within Intramuros. F is to prepare, adopt, revise, and enforce such rules and regulations, implementing guidelines and standards as are necessary for the effective regulation of land use development activities in Intramuros of the both government and private entities, and for the implementation of Intramuros plan, including but not limited to development rules and regulations pertaining to the following. First is land use allocation, used for buildings, their height, dimensions, architectural style and designs, and other specifications of building construction to be undertaken therein. Second, traffic management, street usage, and other related matters. Third is size and character of display signs, advertising billboards, and other external signs and advertisements in buildings, in open spaces, lots, or roads. Fourth is supervision and control of all activities, including archaeological digging, excavation, and exploration within Intramuros, including the use, disposition, registration, and maintenance of archaeological findings and discoveries. G is explorate properties within Intramuros. H is sponsor, conduct, or otherwise assist and support festivals and cultural activities in Intramuros, and charge and collect admission fees to the restored gates and other attractions operated by the administration. I is give grant, contributions, and donations for the restoration, repair, or maintenance of historic structures in Intramuros, including San Agustin Church and structure outside of the Intramuros, which are of similar nature and character as those which existed in Intramuros, for the conduct of historical architectural, archaeological, and other research for other purposes in furtherance of its objectives. J is the last, prescribe and collect reasonable amounts to be charged as filing or filling fees, inspection fees, permit fees, and other administrative or service fees necessary for the effective enforcement of its laws and regulatory measures to be used and disbursed by its in manner determined by its promote its objectives. And now let's proceed to our next topic, which is the National Parks Development Committee, which is or the NPDC. The National Parks Development Committee, created originally as an executive committee on January 14, 1963, for the development of the Quezon Memorial Luneta and other national parks, it was later designated as the National Park Development Committee, or the NPDC. Despite an attempt to transfer it to the Bureau of Forest Development or Department of Natural Resources, the NPDC has remained under the office of the President. And now let's proceed to our next topic, which is the National Historical Institute, or the NHI. Presidential Decree number 260 dated August 1, 1973 has declared certain sites, churches, and places as national shrines, monuments, or other landmarks, and placed their preservation, restoration, and reconstruction under the supervision and control of the National Historic Institute in collaboration with the Department of Tourism. The National Historical Institute was given the right to declare historical and cultural sites, edifices as national shrines, monuments, and landmarks by virtue of Presidential Decree number 1 dated September 24, 1972. The National Historical Institute has been given the authority for the preservation, restoration, and reconstruction for several historical sites and buildings. All the monetary contributions and the donations to the archives of the National Historical Institute are taxed except the deductible from the taxable income of the donor. Today, the National Historical Institute continues to be the lead government agency where matters of history and cultural are concerned. It continues to conceive programs and projects for the public appreciation of history, education the Filipino masses in the lessons of the past, and perpetuating the memory of the illustrious heroes. Aside from commemorating historical events and personages, conducting research and publishing scholarly works, the Institute also maintains historical sites all over the country and is engaged in the preservation of the sites as well as the relics and memorabilia found in the places. It maintains a conservation center manned by personnel well trained for the job and also provides training services and technical assistance for the both government and private sectors. And now, let's proceed to our next topic, which is the National Center for Culture and Arts, which is the NCCA. Republic Act 7356 has been enacted in order to create the mandate of the National Center for the Culture and Arts. We have the functions, and here are the following: formulate policies for the development of culture and arts. Second, to coordinate and implement the overall policies and government program of attached agencies on the development of culture and arts as stated under Executive Order number 18. Third, administer the National Endowment Fund for the Culture and Arts. Fourth is encourage artistic creation within a climate for artistic freedom. Fifth is develop and promote the Filipino national culture and arts. Lastly is preserve Filipino culture heritage by the virtue of the Republic Act 8492, the National Museum has now been detached from the National Commission of Culture and Arts and has now been placed solely for budgetary purposes under the Office of the President. The primary purpose for the National Museum is to acquire documents, preserve, exhibit, and foster scholarly study and appreciation of works of art and specimens and cultural and historical artifacts. And now let's proceed to our next topic, which is the Philippine Convention and Visitors Corporation, or the PCVC. The Philippine Convention and Visitor Corporation is a non-stock or non-profit government corporation attached to the Department of Tourism or DOT, tasked with promoting the countries as an ideal tourism, convention, and incentive travel destination. Its Conventions and Incentive Travel Unit, or CIT, provides comprehensive information, assistance, and guidance to meeting planners and incentive traveler organizers who seek an ideal venue for their meetings and incentive groups. At Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, or BSP. Presidential Decree Number 520 issued on July 23, 1974 empowers the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, formerly Central Bank of the Philippines, to organize a corporation which will manage and administer the Philippine International Convention Center. And now let's proceed to the National Economic Development Authority, or the NEDA. The National Economic Development Authority is the country's independent economic development and planning agency. It is headed by the President as chairman of the NEDA board, with the Secretary of Socio-Economic Planning, concurrently NEDA Director General as the Vice Chairman. All cabinet members, as well as the Central Bank Governor, are member of the NEDA board. The National Economic Development Authority was created in pursuance of the goals of promoting the economic and social development and stability of the country. The NEDA may, in the discharge of its duty and functions, call upon any private person or representative of a private sector for such views or advice as may be persistent to any matter under this consideration. For the Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation, or PAGCOR, is a government-owned and controlled corporation existing under Presidential Decree Number 1869 issued on July 11, 1983 by President Ferdinand Marcos. Pertinent provisions of said enabling law read: Section 1. Declaring for policy. It is hereby declared to be the policy of the state to centralize and integrate all games of chance not heretofore authorized by existing franchises or permitted by law in under the attain the following objectives: to establish and appropriate clubs and casinos for the amusement and recreation, including sports, gaming pools, basketball, football, lotteries, and etc., and such other forms of amusement and recreation activity, or including for the games, which may be allowed by the law within the territorial jurisdiction of the Philippines, and which will minimize, if not totally eradicate, the evils, malpractices, and corruptions that are normally prevalent in the conduct and operation of the gambling and casinos without direct government involvement. And now let's proceed to next is the Department of the Environment and Natural Resources. As provided under Section 4 of the Executive Order 192, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources is mandated to be the primary government agency responsible for the conservation, management, development, and proper use of the country's environment and natural resources, including those in reservations, watershed areas, and lands of the public domain, as well as the licensing, utilization, and regulation of all the nature or the natural resources as may be provided by the law, in order to ensure the equitable sharing of the benefits derived therefrom for the welfare of the present and future generations of Filipinos. The DNR mission is to be the dynamic force behind people's initiatives in the protection, conservation, development, and management of the environment through strategic alliances and partnerships, relevant policy and programs, and appropriate information technology towards sustainable development. And now let's proceed to the Department of Labor and Employment. The following are the functions of the Department of Labor and Employment. Next is the Department of Labor and Employment. The following are the functions of the Department of Labor and Employment, or the DOLE. Enforce social and labor legislation to protect the working class and regulate the relations between the workers and his employers. Next is formulate and recommend policies, plans, and programs for manpower development, training, application, and utilization. Next is recommended legislation to enhance the material, social, and intellectual improvement of the nation's labor force. Next is protect and promote the interests of every Filipino or every citizen desiring to work locally or overseas by securing for him the most equitable terms and conditions of employment and by providing social and welfare services. Next is regulate the employment for the aliens, including the enforcement of the registration or work permit system for such aliens. Next is formulate general guidelines concerning wage income policy. Next, recommend necessary adjustments in wages structures with a view to developing a wage system that is consistent with the national economic and social development plans. Next is provide for safe, decent, humane, and improved working condition and environment for all workers, particularly women and young workers. Next, maintain the harmonious, equitable, and stable labor relations system that is supportive of the national economic policies and programs. Next is uphold the rights of workers and employers to organize and promote free collective bargaining as the foundation of the labor relationship system. Lastly, as they provide and ensure the fair and expeditious settlement and disposition of the labor industrial disputes through collective bargaining. And for our next topic is the Department of Public Works and Highways. A Department of Public Works and Highways functions as the engineering and construction arm of the government. Government has to continuously develop technology for the purpose of ensuring the safety of all the infrastructure facilities and securing all the public works and highways in the highest efficiency and quality in construction. DPWH is currently responsible for the planning, design, construction, and maintenance of the infrastructure, especially to the nation or to the national highways, flood control, and water resources development system. Another public works is accordance with the national development objectives. The work of DPWH is very important, especially in providing the land access to the tourist destination sites and service facilities. Next is the Department of Transportation and Communication, or the DOTC. The Department of Transportation and Communication is the primary policy, planning, programming, coordinating, and implementing, regulating, and administrative entity of the executive branch of government in the promotion, development, and regulation of the dependable and coordinated networks of the transportation and communication system, as well as in the fast, safe, efficient, and reliable postal transportation and communication services. These are the following agencies in the OTC. First is the Land Transportation Office, or the LTO. Second, Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB. Third is Maritime Industry Authority, or MARINA. Fourth is the Air Transportation Office, or the ATU. Fifth is the Civil Aeronautics Board, or the CAB. Next is the Light Rail Transit Authority, or LRTA, and lastly is the Philippine National Railways. Our next topic is the Department of Trade and Industry. Under Executive Order 133, which remains effective at the present time, the Department of Trade and Industry serves as the primary coordinative, promotive, and facilitative arm for trade, industry, and investment activities. It acts the catalyst for intensified private sector activity to accelerate and sustain economic growth. Next is the board investments. Under the Omnibus Investment Code of 19872, the Board of Investments, or BOI, shall be responsible for the regulation on promotion investments in the Philippines. And next is the Philippine Economic Zone Authority, or the PEZA. The Republic Act number 7916, creating the Philippine Economic Zone Authority, was enacted on July 25, 1994 with the following objectives. A is to establish the legal framework and mechanism for the integration, coordination, planning, and monitoring of the special economic zones, industrial states, parks, export processing zone, and other economic zone. B. To transfer selective areas in the countries into highly developed agro-industrial, commercial, tourist, banking, investment, and financial centers wherein highly trained workers and efficient services will be available to commercial enterprises. C. To promote the flow of investors, both foreign and local, into special economic zones, which would generate employment opportunities and establish backward or forward linkage among industries in the around of the economic zones. The D is to stimulate the repatriation of Filipino capital by providing attractive climate and incentives of business activities. E. To promote financial and industrial cooperation between the Philippines and industrialized countries through technology-intensive industries that will modernize the country's industrial sector and improve productivity levels by utilizing new technological and managerial know-how. F. Last is to invest the special economic zones on certain areas thereof the status of separate customs territory within the framework of the Constitution and the national sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Philippines. And for our next topic is the Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA. The Department of Foreign Affairs is the prime agency of government responsible for the pursuit of the state's foreign policy and the nerve center of the foreign service, worthy of the trust and pride of every Filipino. The history of the Republic of the Philippines and that the DFA are intertwined, and it is difficult to discuss the important events to marking the passage of the years of the department without the somehow anchoring this of the rise of the Philippines as an independent nation. The Philippines did not take an active role in the crafting and execution of its foreign policy during the U.S. colonial rule from 1898 to 1946 and during Japan's short period of occupation from 1942 to 1944. The country regained full control of the foreign affairs and diplomatic matters on 4th of July 1946 when Commonwealth Act number 732 was passed, creating the Department of Foreign Affairs. Shortly thereafter, President Manuel Rojas issued on 16 September of the year Executive Order number 18 providing for the organization and operation of the DFA and Foreign Service. The main task of the DFA then were to assess in post-war rehabilitation, formulate policies for investment, promotion, and reestablish diplomatic relations with neighboring countries. And now let's proceed to Department of Interior and Local Government, or the DILG. The Department of Interior and Local Government. Under the Republic Act 6795, or known as the Department of Interior or Local Government Act of 1990, the DILG shall consist of the department proper, the existing bureaus and offices of the college, and the following bureaus: the Philippine National Police, the Bureau of Fire Protection, and the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology. Next, for our next topic is the Bureau of Food and Drugs, or BFAD, or BFAD. The Bureau of Food and Drug is an attached agency under the Department of Health in charge of the registration of processed food, drugs, medical devices, and vitro diagnostic reagents, cosmetics, and household hazard dose substance products. In case these products will have to be carried or mailed for personal consumption abroad, consumers may go directly to the BFAD Policy Planning and Advocacy Division, Public Assistance and Compliance Division. Consumers are advised to bring for verification product and samples and the doctor's prescription for prescription drug products. And now let's proceed to the Philippine Coast Guard. The virtue of Republic Act number 5173, the Philippine Coast Guard has been created as attached agency of the Department of Transportation and Communication with the following objectives: A. To enforce or assist in the enforcement of all applicable laws upon the high seas and water subject to the jurisdiction of the Republic of the Philippines. B. To enforce laws, promulgate and administer regulations for the promotion of safety of the life and property within the maritime jurisdiction of the Philippines. Lastly, C. To develop, establish, maintain, and operate with a due regard of the requirements of the national defense, aids to maritime navigation and rescue facilities for the promotion of the safety and over the high seas and water subject to the jurisdiction of the Philippines. And now let's proceed to our next topic, which is the Professional Regulatory Board of Custom Brokers. Pursuant to the national policy, the government shall provide a program to set a climate conducive to the practice of the profession and maximize the capability and potential of our Filipino custom brokers. Republic Act number 9280 on March 30, 2004 was enacted regulating the practice of custom brokers profession in the Philippines and creating a professional regulatory board for custom brokers. The Act provides for and shall govern: A. The standardization and regulation of customs and administration education. B. The examination and registration of custom brokers. And lastly, the supervision, control, and regulation of the practice and the customs broker profession. And for our next topic is the Naging Filipino Foundation, which are the NPF. The Naging Filipino Foundation was created under PD number 37 on November 16, 1972, with the intention of promoting, encouraging, and initiating research and development projects and activities, social sciences, humanities, social and amelioration, and allied fields. The foundation is non-stock or non-profit public corporation, organized, established, and operated in the public interest, and no portion of its funds and income shall inure to the benefit of any members. The policy-making body of the Naging Filipinos shall be the Board of Trustees, composed for the chairman and 8 members of the appointed by the President for the term of 1 year. The chairman and members shall be persons genuinely interested in the promotion of the purpose and objectives of the foundation. There shall be an executive secretary to be appointed by the board who takes charge of administering the affairs of the foundation and shall act as secretary to the board. And for our last topic is the Tourism Enterprise Zone Authority, or the TEZA. Under the Tourism Act, the Tourism Enterprises Zone Authority, or TEZA, is empowered to administer tourism zone, regulate tourism zone enterprises, and grant tax perks. And that's all for my report, and I hope you learned something. Again, I'm Criscia Autentico, and thank you for listening.